All right, so three, two, and one. Well, Mayor Diny, welcome back to Mayor's Monday here at WSAU, WSAU.com. Not necessarily the fancy backdrop that we had last week with Mayor Weeza, but as always, good to be here in the office. First off, the thing that I've been pointing at you with so
Oh yeah,
far today, there's a story behind this, and I'd like you to
sure,
actually tell what I've been pointing with and playing with as you've
sure.
been here in the
So
office.
this is North Central Wisconsin Works. This is the Rothschild Dam Modernization Project groundbreaking on August 19th. The state budgeted $42 million to help repair the dam, which will preserve Lake Wausau, of all things. That I don't know that we are in danger of losing Lake Wausau, but that dam is over 100 years old, and it is having issues. There's a lot of leaks. It's in desperate need of repair. It's an $82 million project. The state is kicking in 42. The mill is putting in, I believe it's 32. So the little bit of a gap is going to hopefully come from federal and some local help. But that's good news because the safety of the lake, the safety of the residents, the viability of the mill. You have 600, close to 700 jobs between the two mills, plus another 3,500 jobs ancillary to the pulp and paper industry. So it's a big deal that we keep that industry here. And if they couldn't afford to fix that, they might have to, look at other options.
Right. And I would say, as a collector myself, I would say that's a pretty nice keepsake
It is
from
pretty
the day.
cool.
I don't know if that's actually what you use to break the ground
No,
during the ceremony, but
no, it's a little paddle. It
yeah.
signifies the river, signifies the lake. Uh, there were more state legislators there than I'd ever seen at an event up here. The
Right.
governor was there. I think the governor was there maybe over almost 2 hours. So it was a big deal, a big event, a good shot in the arm for the local community.
And I guess just a little bit of the inside baseball on it. How involved was the city? I know at one point they had come to the city to have you sign off on a letter of support for the project to help get the state and federal funding through. But were you involved any more in the negotiations more than that?
Well, we've been involved with a lot of the meetings, especially the informational meetings, to understand what our role could be. Part of our role is advocacy, and that's one area where I think, we did do a council letter, and I wrote a letter to our legislators. There will potentially be a role in helping some of that fundraising down the road. So it's really a team effort. Your local municipalities, state and federal, and of course the mill itself. So it is a big effort. The city obviously can't lift that much, but we have a lot of residents in Wausau who live on that lake, and it's a great asset, and we want to preserve the fisheries, you have hunters, duck hunters there. One of the plans could have called for lowering that draining basically the lake, and if you did that for a year or two, it would be devastating on the environment. It would be a huge environmental impact
No
and a
doubt.
quality of life impact. So to be able to do this project while not lowering the lake is another huge thing that we are advocating for, and all the residents on the lake and people, the users of the lake, certainly want to keep it.
So, if I remember right, I asked Brent Jacobson this too after after we learned that the money was indeed in the budget. Is this project for you then more of an economic and jobs project, or is it more of an outdoor recreation deal? Because again, as you mentioned, the lake is pretty important for a lot of people here in the area.
I would say all of the above. In order to keep the mill operating, they're responsible for that dam. It's a long-term commitment. So the environmental, the recreational part of it is I don't know that we totally quantified what that is, but that's a huge number. But I mentioned 750 jobs directly associated with the two Domtar mills, and then the ancillary jobs. I was in sales in process control and automation for a number of years here, and that mill and the mill downstream put a lot of food on the table for me and for other salespeople. others in the industry, pulp and paper. This is the first major funding that the state has put into pulp and paper. So kudos again to the state legislature and Governor Evers, because he signed off on it. It's a big win for our local economy.
Absolutely. And again, we'll look forward to that project when it's done, maybe a ribbon cutting there, because again, I understand that some of the aspects of that dam are still wooden. I mean, you're talking about centuries old technology that needs to be upgraded, and I know it's been on the radar.
Yep.
So
spans 800 feet, and the part, if you're on the backside of that mill, you'll see that it's flowing like it doesn't look like anything's holding it back. That's the leakage. So those wooden, those old wooden beams in there are leaking badly. So it's going to be good to see completed. It'll help fishing. It'll also help the power generation there, because that water leaking by can't run through the turbine.
Sure. Yeah, again, we'll look forward to that project when it's done. I know one thing that was discussed at length last week at Parks and Recreation is some community leaders are kind of coming together to hopefully turn a tragedy in Wausau last summer, the drowning of refugee along the Wisconsin River back last spring, I believe it was. They're trying to bring some good out of that. I know you're discussing, or at least high-level discussions are being had regarding signage along the Wisconsin River here in Wausau. What do you know about that at this time?
Sure, that was something the Parks and Rec brought forward. Was a tragedy. I did have a member of that family up here yesterday, or a close contact with that family, and the family. They have a strong support group helping them through this, a true tragedy, and it's probably, the issue that you have a refugee coming to town. They're not as familiar with our environment. That whole group did not know how to swim, and one of the things we were talking about is, from my involvement, was how do we offer swimming lessons to our new refugees. And working with ECDC, that's an idea that they want to promote. We have pool space in the winter that we could use. Can we offer these new refugees some of that? Now, that river can be treacherous at times when the flow is high. You can look at it, it doesn't look like it's fast moving water, but it is. Even a good swimmer could have some trouble there. So that's where maybe some of the awareness, and swimming lessons teaches people, one, potentially how to swim, but you also recognize the danger of getting into bad waters, or unknown waters. Maybe that's the more important thing here. So there's been a couple of ideas floated. One is signage, and maybe some key areas that are attractants to the area we can sign. What was the other thing? We did have a Boy Scout group come in. They were looking at some throw buoys.
Yep.
I think if a person were to go in after a child, for example, if you had something to take with you, would be a whole lot more safe, because you often hear of a parent trying to save a child and they both drown. So it's going to be awareness, and if there is some signage that can help. So they're preliminarily looking into it. It's the river over the years takes lives. How can we prevent that and make people aware?
Yeah, and I think the point you brought up there as well with swimming lessons, it's probably an opportunity for, some kind of partnership with the YMCA. North Central Healthcare has an indoor pool facility as well. Is that a discussion that the city is going to be involved in, or are you going to be more or less kind of facilitating an introduction and letting the groups take it from there?
Well, North Central, so, the parks is department is a joint city-county thing. And so I did talk to Jamie Polly yesterday on what that could look like. The UWMC has a pool. You mentioned North Central has a pool. It's county-owned. So those are opportunities, and those could be utilized in our off-peak times, so the winters. The city also has the pools open during the summer. So I think it's a very small effort that could be made that could impact a lot of kids, especially new arrivals. You know, and if it's something ECDC can help coordinate, um, you know, I think it's a positive for anyone coming into town.
And then as far as signage goes, is that a discussion you expect that's probably going to continue here for the next couple of months? Because obviously in winter, little difficult to, you know, post a sign somewhere. So I would think that the city's maybe got some time to think about that.
Well, I think we'll inventory the spots where we think we have issues. You know, and every year the fire department goes out either on a raft or in the winter, somebody goes through the ice. Uh, you know, there's dangers with that, you know. So we can sign, I think, where your high probability entry points are. So I think we need to inventory that and see where it makes sense. Would it have saved somebody's life there to have had a no swimming sign? You know, who knows? But I think if we know where there's potentially dangerous water, we'll look around the dam, for example. We've had people go in over there. You don't want to get too close, and that's a very dangerous opportunity. And they do have signage, I think, warning people there. So we'll do an inventory and see where it makes sense. The city doesn't control the navigable waterways, so you know I don't know how we get out there and check for sandbars and different hazards in the river. But it's a conversation. At least we have data to see where we've responded, and data to see where, you know, maybe the water is more dangerous in areas we can let people know.
Absolutely. So then last thing before we let you go, obviously this is the first time that we've had the chance to kind of talk to you since the passing of Alder Gary Gisselman. You honored him at a city council meeting last month. I mean, just, I guess, inventory, how is the council doing in dealing with the unexpected death of Alder Gisselman? And do you have an idea yet of what the process is going to be like to replace him?
Well, it was a devastating, unexpected hit to the city and to our council. We will be meeting the 9th, so it'd be next Tuesday, and that will be an agenda items to discuss what are the options. And the options are typically special election, appoint, or hold it open. I think we're past the point on a special election. Generally, that's early August. I think August 1st is when the cutoff is. The county decided they're going to appoint, so they're accepting letters of. So he was also on the county board. Gary was. So they're appointing somebody, sort of looking for letters of interest. So that may be the route we go. As far as committees, we did fill 3 of the standing committees, and I still have a few to look at. Gary was involved in a lot, you know, historic preservation, and some other committees that really were expertise type things for him. So I haven't filled those yet, but you know, we'll give it some time here, and in the next week or so, we'll have some direction.
What's your favorite Gary Gisselman story?
Oh gosh, Gary sat right here a few times, and you know, he was a sleeper. At times, he would come out and you know, he was an excellent trivia player, and you know, I there are a few times where I was quoting the Constitution, and he was one of the only alders who probably knew the Constitution better than I do. So he was able to have some good comebacks, and yeah, just a very intellectual, smart guy, common sense, true gentleman. Enjoyed having him around, and you know, he'd come up here quite regularly, and just you could always have a good, fair, positive conversation with Gary.
No doubt. Well, Mayor Doug, we always appreciate the time. We'll look forward to chatting again next month.
All righty, Michael.